thank you all for coming tonight. I know that I am competing against the Red Sox. There is no competition. So but I appreciate you taking the time to come out and listen to something that is something that's very important to us all. Because if you are a parent and your child is struggling, you are concerned. And homework is not going to go away. So this presentation tonight is to help you help your child. Okay, so that's going to be one of the kind of outcomes of this presentation, and something that, but let me kind of go a little bit into myself. I was told I have to talk about myself, so you kind of get a little bit about who I am and where I come from. So obviously we all have professional backgrounds, but our professional backgrounds become less significant when we have a family. So the most important pieces to my life is my daughter Allison, who is here tonight, my son John David, who is not here tonight. He's only 20 months old and he's getting ready for bed. And our first child, Molly the Collie Murphy, and my wife Leah, who is here tonight as well. So I thought it'd be really important as we talk about our kids to make sure to make a connection here that this topic is as close to me as it is to you. A little bit about my background. So I have a couple masters, one in special ed, one in administration. I've been in special education for over 20 years. I was in ed leadership for a while and decided to retire and go back into the world I love, which is the classroom. So I'm currently a special ed teacher, and I have my doctorate in education, and I have on the side, when I have nothing else to do, I run a private practice working with students and adults with executive function deficits. I'm holding this paper because I have to pause for a second. I'm holding this paper, and it's a wireless password. Do people want to access the wireless password? Holding this paper, and I'm supposed to actually say this like 10 minutes ago. So the username is 18B Anderson, 18B Anderson, ON. All lowercase, and the 18 is 1-8. Okay. 18B Anderson, password is 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be easy. Okay, so a little bit about my practice, and I think as I explain a little my practice, it'll help you understand the framework for this presentation. All right, so again, my practice, we work with kids and adults with ADHD and or executive function deficits. And we work on performance deficits, we work on skill deficits. With adults, I kind of call it life coaching because it's very much like that, and school consultation. I have a few coaches that are part of the practice. Two are here tonight, Carrie Zafran, if you can stand up and just kind of recognize, and Christina Evans, who is here tonight. The delivery model of the practice is kind of is threefold. Primarily, we go into the home. We deliver interventions into the home where the problems exist. But that's not. Was I not loud enough? Just kidding. And then we have an office as well, so we can pull clients into our office. And for our adults and for our college kids, we have a online methodology or service as well, which is very uncomfortable for a lot of us to imagine, but right in line with their comfort zone, which is why it's so effective. Okay, a little bit about the audience. The child you're thinking of, are you here for a elementary age child? Ready to show your hands? Awesome. Hands down. Are you here for a middle school age child? Okay. Are you here for a high school age child? Okay. Are you here for a college child? All right. Are you here for yourself? Okay. And how many of your children are on 504 IEP. Either one, doesn't matter. Okay. Awesome. So this presentation, the format is broad enough to address everybody. Okay. The problem with that is I can go so deep into the weeds to address every single one of the age needs. But for this presentation, I couldn't really do that in the time I have. So you have to respect the fact that I have to keep it broad enough so that everybody can kind of take something away from here tonight, right? But there could be more, and I'm going to give you a chance to be able to ask questions afterwards, and even afterwards over email and things like that, so I can try to answer your questions. So this presentation is about homework, right? That's why you came here, because this title of homework. Well, if we understand homework as fitting under, because it doesn't live by itself. It's not an isolated construct that's the only thing that we care about. So in terms of this presentation, something I was talking to Diane about, and the reason I'm here tonight, is it's very, very important that we start to see homework within a larger construct. We have to see homework as more than this isolated activity. Right? We have to see homework as a responsibility, but we have to go even further than that. And we have to see homework fitting under this broader context. Because that's where we have to start to truly understand and solve systemic challenges that homework just seems to fit in there with. Right? So from your expectations, we have responsibilities, but again, let's start looking at other scenarios. In this presentation, as part of this story tonight, you're going to understand how routines fit into this story and fit into the lives of our children, our lives. How routines matter. They matter so much that homework's just a part of that story and that expectation. You're going to hear that word a lot tonight, expectation and responsibilities. Because isn't that what homework is? All right, so we're going to go beyond just this idea of homework. You're going to hear me remove the idea. So routines, we also have kind of parallel to routines is commitments. And how our children meet our expectation in relation to commitments. Now, commitments have a time and place. Right? So we get into what commitments look like. We also see that routines, chores, fall into a certain pattern of routines. Now, when you see where that's aligned, doesn't homework represent a chore? And you're going to start to ask yourself, how many chores does my child have? And is homework the only one? Or are there others that start to show themselves? When I make a list of chores and my expectations and responsibilities of my child, does homework, just taking out the trash, become one of them? Does dishes become one of them? We start to see that homework is part of this bigger story. And we start to see that in these commitments and these routines and managing homework, we have a schedule. And managing that schedule, because that's part of managing your commitment. And then we have, as a part of that scheduling process, we have planning, we have time management. And to pull it all together, we have the ultimate desire, the ultimate goal as a parent, and that is to raise and develop independent young adults. Right? But some of our children just lack intrinsic motivation, right? Right? And that's okay, because we were the same. We just didn't have the challenges they have today. So it's harder for them, which is why they need accountability. It's only appropriate that we talk about that and what that looks like. All right, so we start to see the framework of where we're going in this story that we call homework. Quick overview. So I'm going to do a little perspective taking as part of this. I'm going to start talking about why children may struggle to manage expectations. Again, looking at homework as an expectation. I'm going to do a quick, I'm going to say quick because there's workshops on this. I'm going to talk quickly about executive function deficits. It's what I do It's how my brain thinks, and talk about what it looks like when we look at executive function. Okay, and I have to kind of note here, deficits is in this presentation is looked at as you would imagine someone that's nearsighted or farsighted. They have a deficit in eyesight, and they manage it. So I'm talking about deficits from a simple appreciation that there are certain things that someone may not be good at, and they need to manage that deficit with certain strategies or tools, as if you need glasses. And then I'm going to get into these 6 components as we look at overcoming the challenges and what we can do as parents to start to initiate that change within our own children. Before I do that, let's frame the perspective again on homework. We care about homework because it is a stepping stone to studying. We care about homework because studying is one of the major criteria for college success. And that's why we care about homework. So that's absolutely appropriate that we do see homework as a major responsibility, because it is the job, our children's job is that of a student. And part of that job is to manage their homework. Perspective of our children. It's going to set the stage of our children. Most children, I can imagine, that we think about here tonight, school is hard. Procrastination is a theme. They do desire independence, even though they may struggle with it. It is a desire that everybody has. They want to be successful. Nobody wants to fail. Right? And repeated failure is definitely the worst case imaginable. Struggle with goal-directed action. Now this is a piece that will come up, that we'll reach again, is really meaningful. It's where we come in. Our great kids. I have yet to meet a client, a student that isn't a great kid. Research will show for many children with ADHD or executive function deficits that there is about a range upwards of 30% below their age peers in developmental milestones. So many of our children need time to mature. They need time for their brains to develop. And we are in a society that we can't wait. But they'll get there, right? It's okay, they'll get there. So we either wait and watch them struggle and or fail, or we support them until they catch up. And most importantly, they are not lazy or unmotivated. Period. It's real important that they don't define with that as part of their own belief patterns. Perspective about us. I had to start with this one. Parenting 3.0. It's really, I use that phrase because it means keeping up with the technology that permeates their life. You guys see the bottle flipping yet? Yeah? Have you watched the videos that have to do with the bottle flipping? No? Anybody been on Twitch yet? Twitch?
No, but it makes me twitch.
Yeah. So there are websites. I mean, it's not like you need to, but keeping up with what they spend time thinking about and doing is not necessarily something that we should even try to do, right? But it's a struggle. It's a struggle, and it will continue to be that. We're tired of nagging. Nagging it's a great word. It's a great phrase. It covers so much, right? Kids use it, we use it, but we're tired of it. Refuse to let our kids fail. Why do we nag? Because we refuse to let our kids fail, right? So it comes from a really good place. Sometimes we feel like this, right? Because nagging and all of this, we feel like we care more than they do, and that's true. But we do want to raise happy, healthy, independent children, right? That's a theme. We want children who learn to work hard to overcome challenges. And we want responsible children who strive to meet their expectations and the expectations of those around them. 3 reasons my child may struggle. So I have to frame this piece because I'm only going to talk about one of them tonight. But your child may struggle because there is a performance deficit. And the way to look at this is my child knows what to do, can do it, just doesn't. So there's a deficit in performing on given responsibilities. And we're going to talk about that theme tonight. The other scenario that can play out in concert with a performance is a skill deficit, meaning my child knows what to do, he or she just can't. And that's real. And that plays into deficits in executive function, which are real and need to be addressed and supported. But we can't get to skill deficits until we increase performance, because we don't know where the line is yet. So we have to deal with performance to understand where that line is so that we can extend supports and offer assistance and work with the schools to manage the skill. And of course, can you have both? Of course you can. I explained this piece already. This is performance. So in order to start to look at these deficits, we have to start to initiate incidences of change, or else we won't understand where performance meets skill. And then here's the kind of explanation of skill deficit. A little bit about executive function. I have to say a little bit because, like I said, there could be whole presentations on this topic. But I want to frame it tonight so you know what it looks like a little bit, because everything I talk about in these slides connects to the categories or the domains of executive function. So organization. Your child, or many children that struggle with organization, it's not that they can't get organized, right? It's that they struggle managing and maintaining organizational systems. Okay, and that's important because you can always hit the reset button. They can always start the school year off very organized. It's what happens a month down the road when routines get out of whack and things start to fall apart. Organizational systems fall apart as well. Impulse control. For elementary age kids, they say that's kind of the H in ADHD. As you get older, that impulse control, that hyperactivity gets more internalized because of peer pressure, really, social norms. You don't want to act that way as an older teenager or younger teenager, so it's more internalized, but you still have those thoughts that are hard to control. And those desires, those emotional feelings to do something else and not stick to the task at hand. Planning and prioritizing. This shows out all the time with our children when it comes to writing a paper, when it comes to planning out their shopping list for Christmas, or and that's where long-term projects in homework meet failure time and time again. Task initiation, the opposite of task initiation is procrastination. So if you see that theme play out in your child, that theme of procrastination, it's not that they don't want to do anything. It's that they may actually struggle with that initiation of a meaningful task or an undesirable task. Flexibility. This is an important construct of executive function because it can be real debilitating for kids that get stuck in their own way of doing things. And no matter what you say, they won't deviate from it. And regardless of the negative implications of that pattern, they feel really emotionally connected to whatever it is that they're stuck on. And that's the kind of the rigidity or the inability to be flexible, to go beyond my perception of what I think is supposed to happen versus the reality of actually what happened. And how do I be flexible with the changes. Emotional self-control is kind of, I look at it as being mirrored with impulse control, especially for older kids. Younger kids, it's the temper tantrums. For older kids, it may actually be more of a unobservable. Maybe it shows as being poor stress management, but it's the inability to recognize when am I out of 5, when am I out of 6, what do I need to do to manage how I'm feeling, and how do I respond to my external world in a meaningful way. Self-monitoring. This is the problem-solving piece. This is the piece that I keep making the same mistakes, yet I keep making the same mistakes, and I keep thinking, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and expect a different result. It's that ability to reflect and evaluate and say, what about these decisions do I own? You know, the opposite, the challenge with this may be the blame game, where it's not me, it's somebody else. Right? And not being able to look internally to say, what about this problem can I relate to and can I problem solve? And then the last one, working memory, is I save the most important for last. Working memory is a significant component of executive function. It's being able to manage information, you know, a group of information. So the teacher's teaching, you're supposed to listen, you're supposed to take notes, and that's just too much, right? Or you're taking a test and you're having to process information, you're supposed to use formulas to solve equations, and you have 5 minutes left, so now you're stressed. Working memory shuts down. Now you're all stressed, emotionally angry, and you just give up on the test. Working memory is real. In the homes, the higher the emotion in the homes, the lower the working memory, or the capacity of working memory. So working, and therefore, meltdowns, emotional outbursts, and shutdown. So working memory, we'll come to it back to, I have a slide specifically for this one, so we'll get back to this one later on. All of these together can represent it as you read about it, some people talk about it as a traffic control tower of your brain. Nothing happens in your life without it being filtered through your executive function. Some people look at it as the engine of your car or the CEO of your brain. So to overcome challenges, so here's where we're going to get into what you can start to do. All right? And as we go through this, there's going to be kind of 6 phases of this. And I'm going to try to move through this as I'm trying to cover a chunk of information in a certain amount of time so that I'm not leaving you halfway there. Okay? So I'm kind of talking fast on purpose because I started late. I only have you for a short amount of time, and I want to make room for questions and answers. So as I get into this, you have the slides with you, right? You can go back and refer to anything, and I'm going to I'm going to pause at the end to be able to answer questions. Because again, what I'm doing right now is I'm initiating in this group, the change process. I'm getting us to think very differently about what homework is and what it is not, and how to start to frame solutions in our home. So as a result, homework gets done. Okay, but we're not going to start with homework. And you saw that umbrella. We're going to start at the very top. And we're going to start framing expectations. And we're going to start framing expectations around all meaningful categories in your life, or in the life or as a parent and your children. So a couple of those categories. We have routines. It's real easy to start to frame expectations around routines because they happen throughout the flow of a 24-hour period. We have the morning routine, we have the school routine, we have the afternoon routine, we have the evening routine, we have the sleep routine. We can start framing expectations around character, values, family values. We can start talking about chores. What are the things that we expect of our children as it represents being a contributor in the family? Right? Having your stake in the family means that you contribute to it in a meaningful way. We talk about performance, privileges, consequences, all very important. Because remember, if our children struggle with goal-directed decision-making, then we need to implement or instill and support that deficit. Okay? It has to happen. We can't leave it up to the schools. We already know what's happening when we do that. All right, so we have to take a role. Recommendations, when you write these, make them clear and consistent. On my website, next to the link that you downloaded for this presentation, there's a link that also gives you a template of making your own, of kind of framing out your expectations. If you wanted to use it, I thought that'd be helpful. I said if I was a parent sitting in the audience, would that be helpful? I said sure, so I made one up and put it on my website. Okay, make it performance-based. Be specific about what the outcome should be. Incorporate the family values in there. What are your family values? Because your child's an extension of you. Don't belittle that. It is significantly meaningful and it should be incorporated as part of your expectations. Engage your child in the creation of it. It can be a family discussion. Obviously, you are the CEO, but it's a family discussion. And individualize it. 1, 2, 3, 4 children. Individualize it because every one of your children is different and it is unfair to think that that's not the case. Okay. As an outcome of this, we start to form the road our children walk down, drive down if they're of age. All right? Now their road doesn't look like this, does it? It's got potholes. It probably has some used furniture in the middle of it, right? It's stressful just to look at. And we have come to a point where we just can't let them walk down that kind of road anymore. I wrote this up. I thought this would connect to most of us. We have to first start, before we can really start to talk about expectations and start to initiate our family, we have to kind of see what our own are as parents, right? What are our goals for our kids? To raise independent and responsible young adults who overcome challenges and work hard to meet their expectations and the expectations within the roles they play. Now that sounds appropriate, simple, meaningful. Now what do we do with it? We do something like this. This is a little, so this is my example. This is my example. Now, I put this up here not because I want you to use it, but I want it to start to get us thinking and moving and processing what we do to support our children starts with us. In this family, we practice hard work. In this family, we practice doing what is necessary. In this family, we are honest and accountable to ourselves and each other. In this family, we give firm handshakes, make eye contact, and always say please and thank you. As children of this family, your job is that of a student. Our expectations of you as a student is that you will study, do 100% of your homework, and maintain honor roll. We as your parents expect that you will always do your best. In this family, school comes first, extracurricular activities come second. I know that's shocking, but just imagine. As a member of this family, we all take an active role in supporting each other. Dishes, chores, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It is our responsibility, it is your responsibility to meet and exceed these expectations and all other expectations in your life. If any of you struggle in your efforts to meet and exceed these expectations, we as your parents are obligated to provide support in order to help you. Exceeding these expectations will earn you various privileges provided by us, such as playing a sport, owning a cell phone, use of a car, socializing with friends, playing video games. These expectations will be typed up, signed, and posted in the kitchen for you as a reference if you forget at any time what we expect of you. Now, doesn't that create a foundation or a road that is very well defined? And that's the point. Now, as we build this road, we need routines. And we need your routines. What can they look like? Well, you have the morning routines, and the way I'm writing these up play into what I recommend, all right? I'm not just making this up as if I was you. I'm making this up as a guideline to what you may start to consider. So you have a morning routine, and it is not your routine. It is your child's routine, right? It is yours if you are nagging. It is theirs if you are sitting at the kitchen counter, sipping your cup of coffee, reading the newspaper, and your child comes down, makes themselves breakfast, gets their lunch ready for the day, gets their backpack on, and is walking out the door to their bus. Now I know that is nowhere near where they are today. But that's the expectation. And you will be blown away when you sit them down and ask them, what are your expectations for your morning? It will kind of look like this. Because again, they want to be independent. They don't want to be nagged. Right? And they want to own their day. Out of bed at a certain time, I love that, out of bed. I had to learn the hard way. Out of bed is different than waking up. There's an upstairs process and a downstairs process. How many of your children go up and down the stairs a dozen times? Right? With their hair on fire, because that's just the way they do it. But it's not at all supportive. Downstairs at a certain time, they're making breakfast, preparing lunch, ready at this time. Flow into the afternoon. We're not talking about school. School's already covered. But when they come home, what is the schedule? What is the expectations? You have a sports schedule or whatever. Homework time is at what time? It can change every day. But it's at a certain time on this Monday or this Tuesday or this Wednesday or this Thursday. The expectation is that you're doing it. There's a starting and an ending point. But wrapped into that is dinner time. Is homework done before dinner? Because that's just the flow of the routine. Routers. Now, I love my technology input in these pieces, right? So this goes into like, we can't parent the way we used to, or the way we were parented, right? When you lock the front door to your house and you set the alarm and you say to yourself, everybody's safe, I can go to bed, because that's how you were parented, right? Your parents did it. But if you don't turn the router off, you're not really locking the door, are you? You're not. So we can't pretend that locking the front door is the only thing that's going to keep our kids safe. So think of that as you look at, what do I do as a parent to keep my child safe? So router's off at a certain time. The expectation is by this time you're done with homework. You don't need the internet. I know. But again, so this conversation's about homework, but there's more there. There's more there. So cell phone with parent by a certain time. Some of you have not given your kid a cell phone yet, right? Some of you have. It is yours. There's a contract I hope you've had them sign as part of the expectation that it is my cell phone and you are borrowing it. Why? Because that's an important understanding of this privilege. And it comes back to me every night. And then you get it as you leave the house the next morning. All right? I want you to have a restful sleep. Part of that working memory or that executive function support, reviewing the plan for the next day before bed. Very, very important. Future planning. Help your child develop the future planning muscle. Sit down with them. What's your plan tomorrow? Make that part of the routine, and lights out by a certain time. It sounds so simple. It's comforting. Weekend routines. There should be expectations around the weekend. I know we don't necessarily push it, and we let our kids wait till Sunday night at 10 p.m. to start their homework. But that's our fault. We've already come to the conclusion that they struggle with goal-directed decision-making. So it's naive to think that on a weekend, things will change. So we should set the expectation of what comes first, what comes second. And then, Sunday nights. This is kind of my revolution stuff. Like, I would love these Sunday night family meetings. There's nothing more powerful than sitting down as a family and talking about the week ahead and the week past. So not only you're reflecting on the week past, but you're planning for the week ahead. Now, I say you, but it may start with you as you demonstrate what it looks like, but eventually it'll be your child sitting down and talking to you about what schedule they have the coming week, what they need you for, what they don't need you for. But once a week, sitting down and looking at the week ahead and the week past is very important as again, from a skill standpoint, supporting the deficits that may exist with executive function and planning. Now, if you were only coming here for homework recommendations, then this is the slide. Study routines. The sooner you can get the word homework out of your child's vocabulary, the sooner you are preparing them for college. Because we all know that homework doesn't exist in college. It's a harder process called studying, where you have to sit down and ask yourself questions like, do I understand? Right? Do I understand? And homework is a very different metacognitive journey. Quiet common area out of the bedroom. Again, this is kind of another example of how we need to parent differently than how we were parented. The bedroom is no longer what it used to be to us. It used to be that quiet area, right? Removed of distractions, where we could get homework done, right? Raise your hand if that place is the bedroom for your child. Awesome. Then you do not need to follow what I'm saying next. But for many, many children, the bedroom is not where they are void of distractions. So we have to look very differently at how do we promote a library-like environment within our own home. A quiet desk in a quiet area. It may mean that the children or the parents have to keep the TV off for that 2-hour period. So what? But we're promoting this culture within the home, that this is our quiet time in the family to be productive and support each other. High school kids, 2 hours a night. Middle school, it obviously goes down as you go down from there. But college kids, I'm saying 3 hours a day. So as you think of the building blocks to get to the college mentality, 2 hours in high school each night. And I'm not saying homework, because they could probably get homework done in 30 minutes. I'm saying studying. There should be in a calendar or an agenda as part of the expectation. There should be physical representation of the plan that manages the most important role they have. If their most important role is that of a student and they have no place to reference, then how seriously are they taking it? So that's where your expectations, so you can use that to track and manage their priorities. Specific start and ending time, use a timer. Some kids like doing this because it helps them to initiate, but timers can help. Again, that's part of the conversation, and part of the expectation is that how can I help you get your work done in a meaningful time period, and would a timer help? Sunday nights, review the plan for the week. We've said that already. Music with headphones is, I don't know, some parents refuse to let their kids listen to music when they do homework. But if your child says that it helps, let them. But the expectation is not you go surfing YouTube every other song, because that becomes a distraction, not a support. But listening to music can really ground the brain, ground the distraction, ground the mental chatter, and allow some children to really be productive. Airplane mode, turn notifications off. Your kids know what that means. If you don't, ask them. But they can manage their distractions by doing two simple things. I got 2 hours to get work done. I got an hour to get work done. I'm unplugging from social media until I'm done. As a long-term mantra, my goal with anybody I work with routines on is turning routines into rituals. A ritual, as I describe it, a ritual is when that routine becomes emotional, when you have an emotional attachment to it. Right? Meaning this routine has proven to have such awesome results that I really don't want it to go away. And that's where you want them to get to. Getting there is not going to be comfortable, getting into that new routine. But when you keep working at it and you keep maintaining it, that's where you want to get to as an outcome. It's ritual. Now, the sleep. Sleep. I haven't asked, but how many of your children struggle with sleep routines? Okay, so this can ebb and flow depending on what their age, but sleep, as we know, matters. We don't need to talk about its importance. All we need to talk about is how we support it and what the expectations are around it. Bed at the same time, up at the same time. If you are controlling internet access, then you are supporting what time they initiate the sleep process. Okay, you can ask them. They've told me enough times. I've asked enough kids. They will not parent the way they've been parented with unrestricted access to the internet all times of the night. It leads into these patterns that they just can't get out of, and they wish they could, because you can only go on these Netflixing binges so many times in a row before you start to say, man, I'm running out of, I'm really drained. So that's where our support comes in. My recommendations is no screens time during the week unless it's part of a different conversation, but as a general rule, none. Unless it's for work, of course. But then we talk about privileges and expectations and rewards, things like that. Downtime before bed, read to relax, that's still true, even with technology. Okay, organization / chores. I put these in the same category because sometimes they're one and the same. Doing chores is to keep things organized. Even mowing the lawn keeps the grass organized, right? Keeps things looking put together, taking the trash out, right? Walking the dog, because we don't want to not walk the dog and deal with the ramifications of that. Clean clothes. So when you talk about the organization, the expectations, what are the expectations? Now again, making the connection to homework. Homework is a chore. What are the other chores that you have as part of your child's daily routine? Because I'll tell you, if you have 10 to 15 chores that are part of your child's daily routine, and homework is just one of them, you are supporting the emotional resolve or whatever building blocks they need to manage the stress that homework may create. Now that just makes sense. But it's important to appreciate how do I solve the homework problem by looking at it through a different perspective. But if homework is the only responsibility and is the only chore that your child has, then it becomes the focus of all challenges. The tornado effect, I think we can all maybe laugh at that one. It's kind of when a child leaves a room and you see the evidence of where they've been, right? But again, awareness, building awareness in terms of expectations that you will not leave a trail behind you because you are not the only person in this house. Recommendations: set daily, weekly chores, expectations for cleaning up things. You know, we have our routine. My closet looks like a mess all week until Sunday when I reorganize it for the next week. You know, for whatever reason. So we all have our own routines to manage our own chaos. It's only appropriate that we help our children do the same thing. Time management. As you work with routines, as you build a clear understanding with your children of what expectations are and what they are responsible for, what will come up as part of this is solutions to time management, right? Because if you have a certain expectation about the morning routine, you are helping your child manage the flow of time. Now, what does it look like if you have not managed the flow of time? And we all know what it looks like. It's the chaos of running around. You are a victim of time. And it's okay every so often to live that way. But it is extremely stressful if that's the only way that you live. Okay, so I've read certain research that says that 80% of ER professionals have ADHD. I don't know if that's true, but it's kind of fun to think of because they thrive under this chaos, right? Under this quick acting, uncontrolled decision making, which in certain ways it plays to the strength of many of our children. So that makes sense. But to live that way, even outside of the office, that is just general chaos. So you want to teach a balance. And time management and the expectation of time management is part of that teaching process. What you want your children to do is feel in control. Feel in control of time. It means that I have a management. I have a set expectation that I'm getting up at a certain time. When that alarm goes off, I get up. That is the first moment of the day that you either prove to yourself I can, or you prove to yourself that I can't. And if you're getting them up, you are already proving to themselves that they can't. And part of the process is the first time you wake up and you embrace the day and own it independently, you are giving yourself the opportunity to continue with that mindset and that resolve. So accountability to being a victim of time. Now, I've heard time and time again, no pun intended, that if a child is late getting up in the morning, for example, right, the consequence is you drive them. Now, there's no lesson learned there, but it's important to appreciate that, yes, every so often that's not a big deal. But as I teach my children how to stay in control of time, there should be natural consequences, and there should be ones that they're accountable to you. Using the calendar and agenda again goes back to the only system we have as a human species really to track time is a calendar. Right? So if you want to have your children get better at this piece, they have to start managing it using a time-based system. And that just makes sense. Now, to promote it, review it every day, look at it with them. What do you have going on today? Let me see your calendar. Let's talk about the plan today. What do you need me for this afternoon? Oh, you need me to pick you up at 3:30 because you have soccer practice? Or you have a game? Okay, I'll come pick you up. Versus the other way around. I'm going to pick you up at 3:30 because you have a game. Right? So we change the story a little bit. Access to distractions. Now, if you are to help your children improve their performance with homework, one theme that they will admit impacts their ability to get things done is managing distractions. Now, if you put distractions as part of their road, I have a feeling there's a lot of potholes just because of distractions. Okay, that's the hardest part about being a kid these days is they have to manage far more distractions than we did. So I recommend no screens in the bedroom. Now I know any kid that watches this is not going to like that statement, but they'll get it. We cannot parent the way we were parented. Right? If you would not let your child go off down the streets of New York at 1:30 in the morning, why would you let them have their screens in the bedroom with limitless access to anywhere in the universe? Literally, universe. So it's just important to have that conversation, right? Smartphone contracts. On my website, there's a smartphone contract. It's the best one I know. And use it. Hit the reset button if you have to with your children in the cell phone. It doesn't matter. It's your phone. You can do whatever you want. Right? But have that expectation set up for the most important device that they will be using now and for the rest of their life. So the nagging piece, this is starting to play itself out. So as you start to establish expectations and you start to have authentic conversations with your children about their responsibilities and what they need to do to meet your expectations, what will start to diminish, I won't say go away, what will start to diminish significantly is incidences of nagging. And now this benefits both parties, of course. And then as part of this conversation, you also have, how do we take back control of the privileges versus rights? Now why? Because that is a life lesson that some of us ignore to teach our kids. Because in life there is privileges. In life there is things that are God-given rights. And in this family you have the right to, and whatever you want it to be, but differentiate it. Help your children understand the difference, because they won't unless you teach them. So consequences is just part of this conversation, as I've set up in my umbrella at the very beginning. Consequences are natural, right? They're part of life. And if you don't use consequences to reinforce expectations, then you don't really have expectations. You just have suggestions. Okay, so we want to go beyond suggestions to expectations and start to help our children understand what's at stake. So, I have a lot of ideas here, but you really only need one, and that's the top one, and that's the privileges earned. You don't really need much else than that. But as a person that raised a border collie, right, and trained her to be exceptionally well behaved, I learned through reading all sorts of books that positive behavior is the most powerful reinforcer there is. So use it if you want to. And I love matching grades for dollars. Oh, for one reason, it works. It's the only reason. It works. Okay, and I mean there's other benefits because it models a little bit about real life, right? Effort equals results, right? And reward. But sticker charts, I have stickers in my car that I use for adults. I give them stickers all the time. You don't go, bring stickers back into the family. They're awesome. Praise, always catch your kids doing something right. For every one incident of nagging, there should be 2 incidences of catching, at least 2. Okay, 3. Of catching my child doing something right. Because they are trying. So train your brain to catch it. Movie nights, of course, sleepovers, screen times on the weekends. Dr. Corey Nigro. He is a clinical neuropsychologist that works in my practice, and that's his quote. People only change when they are in a state of discomfort It's only at that point the true change can begin. Now, I'm not putting that out there because it has anything to do with our kids. That's human nature. Human nature. We change when we are uncomfortable. Other than that, why change? Oh, okay. Loss of privileges as far as negatives. Loss of privileges are natural consequences, and obviously, I want to just kind of add this in to avoid the nagging, like I said, and the yo-yo effect, and this is not dieting. The yo-yo effect in this case is by way of reminding us or helping us understand that the give and take of privileges isn't helpful. Okay? So you lost it, you gained it, you lost it, you gained it, you lost it, you gained it. Isn't helpful. It doesn't teach sustained, delayed gratification. It doesn't teach sustained habits, routines, and rituals to earn a reward. Now, I know we live in this immediate gratification generation. I get it. But this is the opportunity to teach. And when you hold a consequence and you hold a privilege because of something, you want to say until further notice. If it has to be something taken away, until further notice. Now why? Because it just keeps you in charge and you don't know when yet. When I see sustained evidence of progress, we will revisit this privilege. Now that's simple. There'll be a lot of, but that's simple. And again, you're training the brain to look at long-term results. Now that's the way to build intrinsic motivation, is to hold the privileges until there is sustained evidence of progress. Okay, so this is where you just sit back. So you've set the expectations, you've talked about responsibilities, you've delineated what the routines are, you've brought the children into the story, they're part of the process, right? You've worked out various issues, but now this is the time to start to ask a very simple question over and over and over again. What's your plan? Because it turns the table, gets you out of the driver's seat. I know it's your road, you built it, but you don't have to be in the driver's seat. It's your child's turn. Put him in the driver's seat and ask him the question. What's your plan? Don't problem solve it for them. Obviously, you're helpful in the process, but this is how you build executive function, is by talking to the CEO. It's the best part. So the learned helplessness is if you are continuously being your child's CEO and solving problems and moving them forward, you are increasing this feeling of learned helplessness, and you are decreasing this feeling of self-efficacy. All right, so recommendations, ask clarifying questions. As you get better at this, at start, you're just going to start with saying what's your plan. But as the conversation gets better, your details will improve. When, where, but what if? Right, what if? You can ask that. Because you're trying to train their ability to reflect. Come up with a plan, but don't leave it there. Analyze it, make sure that plan works. And use those questions throughout the day, the morning check-in, evening check-in, Sunday night dinner. Shared calendars. Now, who here uses a shared calendar with their kids? Awesome. Who enters it? Okay, as part of this story, they are the ones entering into the family calendar. Right? I know you're nervous, but what if they put the dates wrong? Well, if they care about their sports schedule, then the natural consequence is they miss the game. Is that your problem? Well, it may have been, but it doesn't have to be. Now you think this too. This is what you say, but you also think. Because again, we are also trying to change, right? We're trying to do things differently. So when you think about things that you control today, you can start to ask yourself, is this my problem? Do I need to manage it? Right? Is my child of the age to manage it themselves? Of course, you have to drill this down to each child you're thinking of, right? But there is no, you can start at any age to have your child start to manage responsibilities. So you think about sports schedules, personal, family, etc., long-term planning. SATs, if they want to go to college, they should be part of the SAT process. Prom, tryouts. I love Christmas shopping. I mean, that's homework, right? Having to put together a list and go out, plan when to go, get a ride. Independent routines. This is all about building independent routines, owning your day. That's a phrase that I say a lot. And then obviously, as you look at chores, accountability with the chores. Now, does homework have to be the only thing that you hold your child accountable to? No, it tends to be the only thing. But that's the point. It doesn't have to be. And it doesn't build the growth that we are truly looking for in our children when we treat homework as the only responsibility they have. You guys see this one that came out on social media about a month and a half ago? All right, it connects with our story tonight, right? It does. It does. You have to laugh because we are problem solvers, right? And I'm giving you permission to stop. To stop. So this is just kind of a graph that shows, from a research standpoint, why you hear me talking the way I'm talking, why you hear this lecture going the way it's going, is because we want our children to have the belief in themselves to overcome challenges towards a meaningful goal. And that feeling of self-efficacy is intrinsic and cannot be removed. And the only way you start to do that is to get out of your child's way, but give them the road to walk down. These are the kind of, this is like the most important slide. It's buried in the middle because it just fit here. But this, I would do a whole presentation on this topic alone. Developing grit. Right? The research around this term is ridiculously cool because it is one of the greatest criteria for long-term success. It doesn't matter how smart your kid is. Okay, so stop telling them they are. What you want to start to say and see evidence of is perseverance, grit, moving forward towards a meaningful goal. And that's the stuff you praise. I don't know why I put that in quotes. That was my quote. But anyways. So give permission for your children to fail. As part of this, I'm hoping you come to this place where it's a little nervous, like a little nerve-wracking, this conversation or this presentation, because it's getting you to think differently and push your comfort zone. So that's on purpose. All right, and when I talked to Diane, I was like, Diane, I'm not going to talk about homework. Because that's not where we want to go with this story. That's not where we want to go with our interventions and our supports. We want to be able to give our children the permission to fail, but be there when they do, to offer them feedback when they ask, when they want to problem solve. And as this journey, connect with your family, share your own stories, and make sure they know that in this family, we never give up. In this family, we do what's necessary, not what's easy. We do what's necessary, not what's easy. Right? I have another student tonight. I had a session before here, and he said, with so much passion, he's in 2 AP classes, and he said, with so much passion, I hate reading. And I was like, so because saying I hate reading is like saying I hate to breathe, or I hate to eat, or because it is so necessary to our lives that it should be put in the same context as servicing our primary needs. But to have such an emotional attachment to that hatred of something so mundane, or so unemotional as reading, just paints a picture of where this generation is. Again, why they need our help. Working memory. Again, here's what it looks like too. I didn't mention this piece. It looks like forgetfulness. Okay? I forgot. I forgot. It becomes the best get out of jail excuse because they probably literally did forget over and over and over and over again. And they're as frustrated as you are. And that's where supports are needed. To support working memory, you need a few things that have to be in place if there is a deficit. To understand the deficit, again, increase performance, but add the supports of tracking things, write stuff down. Working memory is impacted with emotion instantly. So if you already have diminished working memory and your child lives a stressed life, then you've taken diminished working memory and made it even lower. Recognize that. The more in control they are of their life, the more committed they are to a routine and a natural flow throughout their day, the more support you are offering them in making sure that their working memory is working at its highest capacity. Oh, this is a big one. So many of our children, you know, they're very busy. Sports, right? Drama, music lessons, and then homework. But if you have a working memory deficit, do you know you actually need more time for homework? But where's that time going to come from? You don't have any. But you need it. But you don't have any. But you need it, you don't have any. So what's going to give? Homework? I'll tell you every case that this is the case. Homework gives. But that's okay if it's done on purpose. But you need more time to study, you need more time to read, you need more time to process, you need more time to problem solve. And where are you going to get that time? So working memory is a real important piece of all of our lives, but especially for our children that may struggle in this area. Okay, I'm coming to the end, which is good because I want to make sure we have questions. And it doesn't look like I'm boring people too bad, because I do this, I teach for a living, so I count yawns, right? I count the glazed eyes, it's kind of easy to see. So this is a few slides about skill training. If you want to now go down this road, this is like its own workshop. So I can touch on it briefly just so you see what it can look like. And I can talk to you about what it can look like in the home. But as you start to understand what's performance and what's skill, you can then step in and start to provide supports. So again, going back to this slide originally to understand that this is what we're looking at right now. But there's different kinds of skill training you can do. So you have college, high school, you have adults. Each phase of their life will require a different kind of intervention, different kind of tool, different type of strategy. For college kids, this is a picture. I just took a screenshot of one of my clients, college clients' academic schedule. Well, it's his iCalendar. And we took his life from being abstract to concrete. We took his life from being unpredictable to predictable. We took his life from being out of control to now in control. And if you notice, I actually have that thing that makes it like, I'm not sure how to do it. I was going to use the arrow. But see where it says library? 3-hour block of time every day of the week. He now has a plan to manage any responsibility day to day. Temporal awareness is helping to build a sense of time and space. This is really good for children because it's the kind of the bull in the china shop kind of analogy. But teaching children, when I walk into a room, what is my role? What do I need? And you start to teach the flow from one venue to another. You can do in the house is a great spot to do it. Who am I when I go into the bathroom, right? I'm a showerer, I'm a toothbrusher. Where am I going when I go into the bedroom? Things like that. So the other one is, so future planning. We've talked about this, that's kind of come out throughout this whole presentation, is being able to teach our kids how to look into the future. Some children really struggle to paint a picture of an outcome. This is from Sarah Ward's work, if you've ever been to her workshops, and she's amazing. So she knows that we drink the Kool-Aid from Sarah Ward. So she is, so Leon, look in the future, paint a picture of what it looks like, and then plan backwards. Extremely effective, but it takes training to get the children to start to think this way. But they love the results because they get stuff done and less stressful. Cognitive flexibility, we don't teach them how to do that move. That's just a picture of what, flexibility. But problem solving, so cognitive flexibility involves problem solving, making connections, synthesizing information. Some children, when it comes down to academics, struggle with reading passages and then generalizing the information, coming up with like, what is the theme of this paragraph? Brainstorming. You can do this at home. Anytime you future plan and you reflect, you're also brainstorming. Let's talk about what's going on Thursday, because it sounds like you really need some help from mom and dad to get you someplace. Let's brainstorm possible ways that we can make that happen. What you can do in the home, other than what we've talked about, other things, play board games, play card games. It's really, really helpful in so many ways. The research is pretty deep on those topics. For children, promote boredom, unplug them from activities. Give them the freedom of boredom to be able to, and I love it, they say, I'm bored. Great! What a great opportunity, right? Great, I can't wait to see what you do with your boredom. Be proactive and supportive. As you initiate any of the things we've talked about, be proactive and supportive of understanding where they're going to struggle and where they won't, and using those as opportunities to teach. And always create time to reflect and evaluate. Self-reflection is so very, very, very valuable. So you have to build that muscle. Build that muscle. So every opportunity you can to sit as part of the routine. Evenings, mornings, once a week, family time is really, really important. So this is what I'm looking to do in the future, is start to establish these parent training series. Now, maybe web-based, meaning you just log in from the comfort of your home while the Red Sox are playing. But to start to connect with professionals, because what I do in part of my practice is I take a holistic approach to interventions. So I align with experts that can solve problems. Dr. Corey Nigro, clinical neuropsychologist, helps me solve problems. I'm aligned with a therapeutic practice in Hingham. They have the therapists, the clinicians, to help me solve problems with our clients. So I want to be able to take those experts and start to offer small, kind of mini workshops on topics that may be relevant. Diane is giving me the wrap-up signal. So I'm happy to stick around if anybody has any questions that I can answer individually. Again, reach out to me if you'd like to extend your questions past tonight. I live in the South Shore, grew up in Norwell, live in Duxbury, and I do this because I'm trying to be an extension. I'm trying to be a support to the community. So if I can be helpful, ask away. Thank you.